just know that you are the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be. And just know that this is the Hitman, and you're watching Papa Pete.
Papa Pete, the old ass gamer. Papa Pete, the old ass gamer. If you haven't grown up by the age of 50, you don't have to.
All right, guys, here we are. We've all had a pretty hectic day here trying to get ready for today. Right on. First, before I go any further, tonight's going to be a nice open chat. Everybody, all you guys in the chat room, I hope you brought some stories or questions or anything. We're going to talk about just old style wrestling in general. And as a special guest tonight, we're going to be joined by DJC himself, Chuck.
Hey, everyone. How's it going?
Right on. Thanks for being here, man.
Hey, great to be here. Great to be here.
Oh, I'm a little flustered. Hot here. I think everybody across the country is going through a heat wave, aren't they?
Unbelievable.
It's been very hot here as well. It was a little bit cooler today because it rained, but
there we go.
What kind do you got?
So I have a Michigan Oberon Ale, which is kind of like an orange citrus, a little bit better than a Blue Moon. Had a little more alcohol content. I think we're at 6%. Made in Comstock, Michigan. But yeah, delicious. Only comes out in the summer.
Right on.
Cheers.
Right on. Cheers, man. Cheers. I'm drinking one of my favorite summer beers, Pickeroom's Melonhead. It's a very, very light beer. Take it easy tonight here, but just a real tasty little watermelon flavor. It's just something I really like on a hot day in the summer, you know?
Absolutely.
And we definitely have that.
I've got some filtered tap water right here.
Filtered tap water. That would be Brita Blonde.
Yeah, quite.
Very blonde, right?
Right on. Right on. Well, I like to say I'm more prepared. I was going to say, I had to go dig up some pictures from Old Time Wrasslin and stuff. And you know what? I ended up installing an air conditioner for my kid. So now what my real concern is, not only that I don't have anything to talk about per se, but I'm worried that we're going to blow a circuit and I'll lose the whole thing halfway in the middle. So if it all shuts off, you know what happened.
Right.
I blew a circuit and lost everything. So just give you a warning.
Pete, when you said you're installing AC, I thought you meant Animal Crossing.
Oh, jeez.
I was like, wait a minute. I thought you already had that on your Switch.
No. And we actually already, she decided they play with it a little bit. So they're just sort of flipping it between the high fan, low fan, and pop the circuit. So I said, set it on something that works, let it cool your room off, and don't touch it. And we'll be all right. So hey, got good group in here already today. Got Caper Dave in the house. Good to see Caper Dave in here again. Of course, I think you like the wrestling, right, Caper Dave? Most of all. Sabater. Beautiful, right there. Hanging with Papa Pete and the guys. Hello, everyone.
Hey.
Oh, yeah, I had to. I'm still sort of enjoy about that. Did you notice that, Chuck, when I started?
That was awesome. I smiled ear to ear. I was like, oh, he's got the Hitman opening it up.
I know it.
Like, that is cool.
Mama C did pretty good there, and MJ and Connor did pretty good to get me that. That was quite a present. I didn't. Never had any inkling of that, so I'm pretty happy with that.
Pete, you already had the best opening video, and now you've added the Hitman. So
hey,
right.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And Lance, of course, is here. Right on, Lance. Great to see you as always.
Yes.
And Born Distracted. Right on. Sabater, I say Sabater, yeah. Great to see you guys all here. Thanks for coming out today. And I'm going to start it right off. Let's jump right in. Lance has the first topic we could talk about. And I'll let you start, Chuck, because as the guest. And where the blazes they go? Right there. Here it is. Favorite tag teams.
Oh my God. I have a lot, but I have to break it down to, well, different eras. There's always different favorites.
Yeah.
I'd say in the late 80s, I would have to go with, I'm sorry, I love the Rockers. The Rockers, yeah. Rockers would have to be it. I see, even going into like, I want to say I think it was late 80s into the early 90s, the Headbangers. I used to love the Headbangers.
Mosh
just
and-
in was it not Slap? Was it Slap? No, Mosh and
oh,
God, I don't remember the other guy's name. But yeah,
Mosh,
like
of course, became Beaver Cleaver. Remember that one?
oh my God, yeah, I think I do.
He came out with his mother, and it was all like innuendo, right? Oh, it was pretty.
Oh,
pretty
that's
stuff,
right.
really.
Now I remember what you're talking about. See, like I went through so many eras because I, as a kid, watched the whole, Macho Man, Andre the Giant, Hulk Hogan, stuff like that. And I remember and watched a lot of that. I still have memories of that. But then I kind of had a hiatus because I was like, I just kind of stopped watching. And then starting about 95, 96, a buddy of mine goes, we were picking him up for band practice. He goes, hold on, I need to set my VCR to tape wrestling. I said, wrestling? I said, who's even on anymore? I go, I haven't seen that. He goes, oh, let's watch it. So when we got back, we watched it. And I go, hey, that's one half of the Rockers. That's Shawn Michaels. And he goes, oh, he's a single now. And he's such an a-hole now. And I said, oh, really? And I go, well, I kind of dig that. He seems pretty cool. And then of course, all the Rock and the Stone Cold and the Attitude Era and all that came in. And then ever since then, I pretty much stayed up to date, except about the last year. I kind of stopped watching a lot of WWE, obviously, because, the pandemic hit and there wasn't really a lot of content that was kind of watchable, in my opinion. But, I still love wrestling. I'm watching a lot of AEW right now, which
Are you right now?
Yeah, and a lot of the old school WWE, roster is starting to head over to there. They've unfortunately been getting let go a lot from WWE.
Weird situations going on there. I
something's
see
going on,
but don't really know. Oh, I don't follow it that closely. Jeff and I get into it a little bit. We both got it's still WWE Network here in Canada, but Peacock down there. And we've been watching since we sort of started the show, right, Jeff?
Yeah, and they got rid of Braun Strowman, which I thought was bizarre.
That was a big one. I was like, and I don't know, because that was kind of where I stopped watching. They were just how they were writing or how they were doing it, they had them like flipping over ambulances and fire trucks. I'm like, okay, come on, can we get to some wrestling, get in the ring? And there was just so much, and I love the soap opera stuff about it. I love that. I love the stories. I mean, that's why we all watch, but it seemed like they barely did any in-ring action. It was mostly backstage antics. And then I was like, this is the worst time to try that. And maybe that's why they're trying to maybe build a new roster and letting people go. But I tell you what, that guy's going to go to AEW with Dusty Rhodes kids. You got Cody and Dustin over there running stuff. And now they got Big Show went over there, and Sting is over there now. And then you got Jake the Snake as manager.
Jake the Snake's making appearances,
And I was like, oh my God, I was like, all these old school guys are over there, and mid-year guys when I watched, like from the 90s.
Up so much awesome friggin' stuff, and every time I I want to remember this. Oh, I want to remember that stuff. Oh, I want to ask this.
But I'll stop for a little bit because I could just keep talking. But yeah, like
Well,
as far as tag teams, I'm gonna have to go with Rockers. In that older era, I do like the Young Bucks as far as the new era now.
Okay, yeah.
And that, we'll leave it at that.
Hey, Chuck, where do you watch AEW? What's that on?
It is on the TNT network.
Okay.
Man,
Same as like the old WCW was.
Okay, I don't think I.
Well, even WWE was at the in the late '90s as well, was on TNT, and then it changed to Spike TV. No,
that was you're thinking of TNN. TNN. I said the same thing the other day. Everybody's like, no, isn't that the? I was like, oh, that's right, TNN.
And then the Nashville Network.
Exactly. And then it went to Spike.
Yeah.
And then they went back to USA Network. Well, at least over here. I don't know if it was on the same.
I can remember that day and age, you'd be able to watch the WWE Raw, and then you can watch MXC. And I love that show, MXC. Do you know the one I mean?
You're talking about which one was it?
MXC. What that place is actually Extreme Challenge or something. It was the Japanese show that they ran.
Hilarious. I love that show.
So I don't know if I ever really got, because I remember mine was, you'd watch ECW. I really loved.
This wasn't wrestling. This was just a different show that was.
Okay.
This was not wrestling. This was a Japanese game show type weirdo show. That
I know it was. And it was like the
Anglified.
obstacle choruses, and they were doing the funny voices and commentary over it.
Precisely.
I know what you were
friggin'
talking about.
awesome.
See, I just needed to be reminded.
The first season of that's available on Prime. I think I turned it on one day. I've never gone back to it, but I watched like 6 episodes in a row while I was
That's
working on
great.
videos one day. It was
I'll have
like,
to check that out.
It's a brilliant idea. You take a Japanese show that's nothing like what we're watching. I mean, it's little clips, but they change all the everything, you know, the complete script, and they just make it a whole different show. It's like, that's just brilliant.
And then what was it? Shortly after that show was real huge. Was it? Is it Bob Odenkirk or Steve Odenkirk? I could never keep the two. One's Better Call Saul, then it's the other. I think it's Steve Odenkirk. Did Kung Fu.
He's Steve Odenkirk's the one that made all the Thumb movies. I don't know if you remember those.
Yes, that was.
He had and he also directed a lot of big movies too. But I collected all his Thumb parodies of Thumb Wars. Was the Star Wars? They had Thumb Tanic, the God Thumb, Bat Thumb, Franken Thumb. He had a whole. I have the whole collection.
Was the movie he made in that Japanese dub style called Kung Pao?
Kung Pao, Enter the Fist. I own that as well. Amazing.
And that's with Steve Odenkirk, right?
Yep. That's Steve Odenkirk. Yep.
Oh my God, that is hilarious to watch. Yeah.
He is a great comedian, great director. He's all around. I don't know what he's up to lately, but that was some of my favorite entertainment back in when those Thumb movies came out. I think was in the mid 2000s, like 2003, 2004, 2005, and then he kind of stopped.
Dan from Rebel Gaming Club in the house. Hey Dan. We go Tuesday nights. Dan has a stream every Tuesday night, an hour earlier than this one, and they talk him and oh my God, if I ever forget. Listen, I had too much running around today. I'm totally brain dead. They talk about music and the old River City Rebels and just playing music all around. Him and Nick Ranchamp, and it's friggin' awesome. Their show. So if you're looking for something to do. Before bleeding into this show, whatever we're doing that particular night, really entertaining over in the Rebel Gaming Club channel. So check that out.
Very good.
The Mega Dollar Dog in here, right on. Oh, Thumb Pow, enter the ass. Nice, yeah. Nick Ranchamp. Oh my God, I was just brain fart today. It was just running, getting ready for tonight. Anyway, so Jeff, how about you with tag teams? First of all, we're right back to tag teams.
I've never been a huge, I guess, fan of tag teams. When I was little, watching stuff here in St. Louis, I don't really recall them having too many tag teams other than we'll take this guy and match him with this guy and this guy. They weren't really tag teams.
Yeah.
Right.
But when I started watching WWF in the early 80s, I loved watching the Moondogs.
Oh, yeah.
Because the Moondogs I thought were just crazy.
Yeah.
And they always had that bone. They would, end up hitting someone in the head with it and winning. I also liked the Bushwhackers. Someone mentioned them in here.
Yep.
Oh yeah, great.
And my favorite though was, I guess, an obvious choice. I forgot their names. Legion of Doom.
Road Warriors.
Road Warriors. Yeah, there you go.
A Hawk and Animal. Oh yeah, absolutely. How did you not like them though? I mean, man, they were just intense.
They just looked cool. They looked like they looked like AAA wrestlers. They were.
Yeah, that football shoulder pads with the spikes, man. What a trademark that they made for themselves with those.
And there's a good Dark Side of the Ring about Animal, right?
Yes. No, Hawk.
Hawk.
There's going to be one about Animal too, I think, coming up. Oh, look what we have in the house.
Oh, you didn't know?
Oh, you didn't know?
No.
Better call somebody. That's the spawn of Papa Pete right there.
Very good, very good. And a wrestling fan.
Oh yeah, he knows his wrestling too. We brought him up well, right? He watches more than new stuff than I do, though.
I love this avatar has the 64 from I believe that's Star Fox 64, isn't it?
Oh.
Is that where that's from?
He's had that for I
love that.
I only do YouTube and have into this at all. Frankly, I'm only collecting games because he sort of started getting into it a little bit. And we just did a lot of it together for a few years. So he had that logo before I ever really paid much attention to it. So I'm not sure where it came from. It probably
it's definitely Star Fox 64. Am I thinking it's 64-bit for life? It's
yeah.
And he's got all the Nintendo 64 cartridges. So yeah, it's definitely from Star Fox 64.
Yeah. So Midnight Express, Chuck brought that up. That was Ricky Morton and am I getting it right? Ricky Morton and who? I could picture him. Is that the right one? Or am I getting them confused?
Oh, no, I brought up the Rockers.
I know you said the Rockers. That's Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty.
And Marty Jannetty,
But Dan from Rebel Gaming Club said the Midnight Express, who were good. Seems to me they're the ones who come over. Are they not the ones who come over to WWF, WWE late in the 90s, whatever? It really didn't do a whole lot, but they were huge in other.
I'm trying to remember. No, they weren't the ones that were in like blue and black. Or am I thinking of someone else?
No, I'm not sure.
There was a lot of revamping, like in the late 90s too, where they would bring old names or they'd dress them up into different costumes. And
didn't they call? Okay, there was the Smoking Guns, which was precursor to the New Age Outlaws, because it was Billy and Bart Gunn, and Billy Gunn ended up going with the Road Dogg,
right?
Jesse James to make
the Road Dogg, Jesse James.
But also there was a period where Bart Gunn and Bob Holly, it seemed to me, were the new Midnight Express.
I think so. That's what I was thinking of.
They were in blue, I think.
Yes, that's what it was. Yeah, because it was like, that was around like mid or late 90s.
Right. I mean, I think about like, what about the Killer Bees? I mean, that was when it was a true, the Conquistadors, the Killer Bees. Those were true tag teams. They didn't even. It wasn't just two guys thrown together. They were an ensemble, you know.
Oh, you know who I forgot to mention? One of my favorites, the Wild Samoans.
Yeah, Afa and Sika.
Yeah, Afa and Sika. I was watching on Peacock Network. They do a terrible job of telling you when these matches are, or they're like events. Like they have them listed, and I just turn them on. Like I don't even know when this is from. But I was watching one. Yeah, I think it was Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, I believe. Okay. But what's the guy? The guy's name that's wrestling now, who's related to the Wild Samoans?
There's Jimmy and Jey Uso and Roman Reigns.
Yeah, it's Roman Reigns.
Yep. Yeah.
So there was a Hell in the Cell there with I think it was Jimmy Uso and Roman Reigns. Yeah. And it was a pretty brutal match. And as Roman Reigns left, he was walking up the ramp, and there standing are these two old guys. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's Afa and Sika from the Wild Samoans. Standing there to greet him. I'm like, where did they find them at?
But man, that's a huge wrestling family. Like, remember we've talked before, Jeff, that The Rock is a direct descendant on his mother's side.
Yeah.
Right?
That's just
his
crazy.
mother was a Maivia. Peter Maivia was Afa and Sika's, I think, grandfather. I don't know, but they're all related. It's just a huge. I mean, Rikishi.
Wrestling is just a big family business. You know.
Yeah.
So many families or so many kids follow the footsteps. Hey, someone just mentioned. Lance just mentioned SD Jones. Did he wrestle in your area? Any of you guys?
I don't recall him ever wrestling around here. How about you, Chuck?
No.
Yeah, he used to wrestle in St. Louis a lot. Special Delivery Jones.
He was a huge, he was your Barry Horowitz, Steve Lombardi guy. He was the ultimate jobber. But he's talked about at the Bruiser Brody Dark Side of the Ring too, as being a friend of one of them or somebody who commonly went to Puerto Rico. And
I forgot about that.
He was discussed in that show. On that note, just a little side note. I'm trying not to go off on too many tangents. So much is coming up, but Mama C showed me a show this week that I hadn't even noticed on Crave. It's Crave up here in Canada. Dark Side of the Ring Confidential. And what it is, it's some of the episodes from Dark Side of the Ring with an interview with Jason Eisner, and I can't remember the other guy's name, the two co-creators of the series, and then a host. Splattered in amongst as you watch the show. So they bring up part of the show, and then they discuss it. They talk about things, and then they also add things they missed. Like the one that I watched only the last half of the other day was Bruiser Brody, and what they did is they brought in Savio Vega and actually had a little interview with him above and beyond what they did in the, if you remember, in the actual episode of Dark Side of the Ring. They just brought up the fact that Savio Vega called Tony Atlas and said, don't go back to the hotel. They're waiting for you. That's all they said really in the show. But then they actually talked about Savio Vega and stuff at the trial and stuff. So it was really interesting. So it puts another little twist on that dark side of the ring, which we talked about 2 weeks ago. Man, fantastic show. And I'm going to sit down and I think there's about 8 of these confidentials that we're going to sit down and watch.
You need to watch those because I noticed they started showing those as a lead up to season 3.
Okay.
I haven't watched any of them, so that'll be.
I've seen a select few of season, was it 1 and 2 that was originally on there?
Yes.
I kind of picked and chose because I have a buddy who's an independent wrestler here, and he's like, "Oh, you've got to see this," and he sat me down and we watched and I'm so terrible with names until someone reminds me who they are, but the guy that ended up slapping the reporter when Vince told him to go out and goes and talk to this guy, he's gonna. And he was trying to, and then the reporter tried to expose, but he slapped him twice and then lost his job eventually after that.
Was it like Dr.
David D. Schultz? Dr. D. Schultz?
Yes. Was it Dr. Death, right?
Dr. Death, David Schultz,
and they went out and interviewed the guy. I mean, he was a harsh individual, but, I think it's just a lot of, I think he was kind of screwed over in a way. He was told to go out and do something, and then they kind of backpedaled on him and got rid of him after. But yeah, it was kind of an interesting story, and I was like, okay, I'm going to watch a few more. And then I did the older lady. God, what the
Moolah?
Fabulous Moolah.
Thank you. My God, my brain's not working. Yeah, Fabulous Moolah, and how
That's
they
why
were.
there's 3 of us here because there's 3 of us. One of us will remember.
Will remember something, and I'm like, that was like unbelievable. Like people either loved her to death, or they said she was the most evil person ever. It's like you don't know what to believe.
Completely.
We've talked about that before. How just bizarre it is. It's like And all we can figure was she was extremely nice to people she liked, and she was a jackass to people she didn't like.
Pretty much.
I can't figure out any other reason for why it'd be so polarizing. It should be so polarizing.
Did you like Demolition?
Demolition was awesome.
Road Warriors versus Demolition. Kind of a copycat thing to me.
Yeah.
Not as much as the Barbarian and Warlord as what were they called? When they brought in the Barbarian and Warlord.
Demolition did more motorcycle stuff, I think, towards the end. Is that what they were?
Well, they had the leather mask, the stud of mask stuff. It was Axe and Smash, and then they brought in Crush
and Smash, yeah.
Yeah, so they were good, though. They were really good. They were long-standing champions, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
And then if you don't remember, here's another one, which is these guys are sort of polarizing, too. Lance brought up is Strike Force. People either loved them or they hated them.
So I don't remember them as much.
They were the champions.
Tito Santana, yes.
They were the big champions, and I think they lost to Demolition. Then they had a rematch or something at WrestleMania 5 or 6, and that was when Rick Martel turned on Tito Santana, and he became the model. But they had a long run, and they were extremely popular for a relatively brief period. Yeah. I don't know this one. Did anybody know this one? For Born Distracted us, what was the name of that nun tag team?
Nun tag team.
I don't recall that one.
What time period are we talking?
Oops, typo. Okay, so what were you actually trying to say? Because I don't see where you corrected it. That's funny. Oh, maybe he did below. No, I don't see anything corrected below. Type in what you meant, Born Distracted.
I think he means typo because he wrote TAGE instead of tag.
So he did mean nun.
I don't remember a nun tag team, though.
Arrogance.
There we go. Greg the Hammer Valentine.
Yeah.
And Brutus Beefcake.
Arrogance was the spray that the model used. He sprayed at people. He blinded Jake the Snake in it with it one time, and then they had the blindfold match where they both had at WrestleMania. I think it was WrestleMania. They both had to wear a bag over their head. Mind you, supposedly Martel had already blinded Jake. So when they get close together, the crowd would start screaming as they get closer, and then they'd miss. They considered one of the absolute worst WrestleMania matches in history.
So I'm glad that stuff's still on network, huh? Because I used to have the network before it went to Peacock, and then I kind of canceled it when everything hit, and it wasn't, they weren't really doing much, and I wasn't watching much anymore, and but now it's like I get it for free with that Peacock app. So
yeah, there you go. So of course, The Rock's dad, and gotta love Tony Atlas,
Rocky Johnson.
I still haven't found that picture of 64-bit and I and Tony Atlas. That's what I was going to do tonight before the show, and I didn't get the opportunity to find a few things like that. So someday I'll dig it up. We'll find it. And how do you know? Nobody has mentioned this yet. How do we not talk about the Hart Foundation?
Oh,
I saw it in the chat. I was like, oh man, why have we not mentioned that yet?
obviously that is probably my favorite tag team, but I have to be honest, it's my favorite tag team in hindsight.
Yeah.
At the time, they were doing their jobs. I hated them just like I hated any of the heels, right? But that was their job to be hated. It was after I found the reality of the situation, who they sort of were, and some of the kayfabe was lost. I started that. So I look back, and that's who I liked.
I've always been a fan of the bad guys, the heels.
Yeah. You love. I love the arrogance. You know, that's.
Yeah.
I mean, but you know, and back in the day, I think more now it's more of an act. But a lot of times, like that's what I loved about the older wrestling. It was very. They were playing themselves just on volume 10. You know, it was there was a lot of truth to their character and what they were saying, and either it was either really bad or really good, but it made for good watching. You know, good wrestling.
Guys just drove me crazy. They, you know, especially ones that wouldn't break the rules and all this goody two shoe stuff. I'm like, you're wrestling. Go grab a chair, hit someone in the head. Come on.
I've just been instructed here that the picture that I'm talking about is on Facebook. So I'll take a quick look while we're talking here.
Boob.
Yeah,
you go.
That's my son's respect for me. Yeah, that's okay.
The Mega Powers, Hulk Hogan, and Macho Man Randy Savage. Oh yeah.
And of course, that's hit a bit in the Dark Side of the Ring as well. Yeah.
I got to watch more of those. I only watched a select few. I need to sit down and just watch them all. They're such good shows and
They're all
produced. I didn't realize Chris Jericho did some, which another one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. He just did a lot of the commentary on that. That was unbelievable. I was like, he did good commentary. I didn't even know it was him until I saw it.
He's the announcer for seasons 2 and 3. And season 1 was Dutch Mantel. And it sort of makes sense now that I've rewatched most of season 1. Jeff, we talked about this a couple weeks ago when we talked about Dark Side of the Ring, that Dutch Mantel, who was, what the hell did they call him? I can't remember, but he was with John Bradshaw, Layfield, his manager. Then he was Jack Swagger's manager later on. Anyway, the only one he did.
Oh, yeah, the guy with the big mustache. Yeah. Exactly. Oh my goodness.
He does a good job too with the season he did, but he didn't do the Bruiser Brody episode because he was there and he was a heavy part of the actual show. So Mick Foley did that one episode in season 1, and then Chris Jericho's done it ever since.
Yeah.
And you are absolutely true. He is excellent.
Yeah, right. Because I was like, Chris commentated by Chris Jericho. I was like, what? And I went back. I had to rewind and go, "Oh my goodness, that's
it is."
Yep, it sure is.
Hey, Lance mentioned Rick Martel and Tony Garea as tag team champions. If anyone wants to see an interesting match, type into YouTube Tony Garea, George the Animal Steel. George Steele fought him, I think, when he first hit the scene.
George the Animal,
and he destroyed him. He had that what was it? Hammerlock, the flying hammerlock, whatever. Where he'd pick you up by the forearm and he would just hang you there.
Yeah.
He pulled this guy's shoulder completely out. His arm was bent in these weird positions.
Oh.
And then he kept stomping on him even after he gave up. He threw him to the ground. It was brutal. Oh.
George the Animal was a local boy here, was a coach over at Madison Heights High School here in Michigan. And then they cut a promo. I think it was him and was it Mean Gene? At the Detroit Zoo, where he was going into the area with the animals by the forest, and he busts out of the trees and the shrubbery, and they're like, George, how you doing? We're here at the zoo. We're George. They acted like he lived there. It was so funny.
Chuck, we've been on the search to see if we can ever find a match in which George Steele wins by pinning someone.
No, he usually ends up he was tag teaming with someone and he would help them win, but I don't think he's ever pinned anyone.
So many of his matches, I've never seen him win by a pin. I've never even seen him try to pin anybody. I think he either lost or he won by submission. That's all I've ever seen.
I just always remember him messing with somebody or helping somebody, like him himself actually winning a 3 count. No,
it makes perfect sense for the character. I mean, he's just crazy. Why would he pin?
Yeah.
Pinning doesn't make any sense for George Steele.
No, that's right.
And the green tongue, which I believe was an accident, wasn't he? Drinking something?
No, he was eating some kind of sucrete or something for coughing or I don't know.
You said Sucrets, I think, didn't you?
Yeah, it was
Hey,
something
brother
like
Mike.
that.
Good to see you, man.
And he just showed up one day. He didn't know his tongue was green, and somebody mentioned it to him after the match, and so he just decided to stick with it because he thought it was kind of cool.
Yeah, that's. I thought that was pretty cool. Like when I learned that, I was like, "Oh man, some things do happen just naturally," and then you just go with it.
Does Mankind and Sacco count?
I
as a
was
tag
just
team?
looking at that. I was just looking at that. Absolutely.
I'm looking. Where's that one?
Towards
Born
the bottom,
distracted.
the second
Right
from the
there.
bottom.
So, how about the Rock and Sock connection?
Absolutely. Hey, they even had jackets made. Remember when he gave that to The Rock? The Rock doesn't want your stupid jacket.
The Rock. This is your life.
Yeah.
Oh my God, those are great shows back then.
Oh, it's so great.
I'm still on here trying to find this friggin' picture of Tony Atlas and us. I don't know.
Oh man, and then when Mankind came out, was it Royal Rumble as 3 different people? It was
That's right.
he came out as Cactus Jack, Dude Love, and Mankind.
Yeah, I haven't seen that. Pete told me about that. I got to watch that because that's
So-
hilarious.
I'm
So
pretty
funny.
yeah, I watched that live. I remember and I was like, no, and I was laughing too. Yeah, it's so epic.
Here's some classics right there. We're going to talk tag teams. How do you stay away from the Dudley Boys, the Hardy Boys, and Edge and Christian in that friggin' triple threat ladder TLC match at whatever WrestleMania that was? That there aren't many better matches than that one.
The Concerto.
The Concerto, yeah.
I tell you what, Christian's in AEW now, and so is Matt Hardy. It's like everybody's going to AEW. That's why I've been watching it. I'm like, I want to watch all these guys and Jericho.
Hey Pete, you got the photo sent to you on text.
I just found it on Facebook too.
Oh, Iron Sheik and
there it
Nikolai
is.
Volkov. I loved Iron Sheik and Nikolai Volkov as a team. It was so funny.
Boy, yeah, I remember that. They were also in the cartoon, the Saturday morning cartoon. Hulk Hogan's Rock and Wrestling.
I love when Sheik would say Russia #1, Iran #1, and he goes America, and he'd just spit.
USA.
Oh my. Look at the guns on that guy. Look
That
at
man. His arms were bigger than friggin' 64-bit's waist, I swear.
Yeah.
Look at I'm just shocked that he's still in this shape. He doesn't still wrestle, does he?
I think he does some sort of like little baby indie events now and
Well, I'm
again.
sure he makes great money on it too. Those indie wrestlers, any of these old school guys, they'll do show up, do a small match for like 2-3 minutes and probably make a few grand.
And I'll tell you this right now, we sat and talked to him probably for 15 minutes. Like, he'd talk your ear right off. He was great.
Wow,
he was really good. So was the other one I saw there, Butch of the Bushwhackers. No, Luke. Sorry, it was Luke, not Butch. It was Luke that we saw. This is down in Bangor, Maine, actually, at a convention.
I like that shirt that your son's wearing there, Pete.
The Blondie shirt. Yeah, he's got pretty good taste in music.
Very good.
Yeah, absolutely, Connor. Atlas was a legend. He was fun. He told stories. He friggin' just joked around. It was a great guy to talk to. Yeah.
Yeah, and he was right there when Brody got stabbed.
Oh, I know. And back then, I had no idea. I mean, I didn't know
either. I watched that show.
Pardon me?
I didn't either. I watched it. I didn't know Tony Atlas was even in the area.
No, I mean, I remember Tony Atlas wrestling in the 70s and late 70s when I watched it as a little kid. But I didn't know he was involved. But you didn't know about these territories and stuff. Like, I didn't know they were all going to Japan even. I just like watching wrestling. It was on TV. And
I didn't know until we got cable. All of a sudden, I'm like,
yeah, there you go.
WWF. Why the Von Erickson, Texas? Because I see them in St. Louis all the time. I was like, they have their own thing down there. And then there was like the whole Florida, southern area.
Yeah. Pretty freaking cool, though, really.
I used to love when like ESPN and all them would show the old wrestling. I used to, stay up late at night and I always catch like the NWA, all the old matches and just seeing stuff that I never was, I was too young to watch, and I just always thought, I was like, wow, this is really the history. People showing up to a wrestling arena in suits and dresses, and I mean, it was more like it was like taken seriously like a boxing match. It wasn't a sign or anything like that. They were just there to see this event,
I sent Pete, it was like a documentary about Wrestling at the Chase, which was a show we had here in St. Louis.
Which is another thing that I had on my slate to watch before tonight because I wanted to be able to talk about it.
And when it first started in I think the 50s, Joe Garagiola was the announcer for Wrestling at the Chase back then, the old baseball player and announcer. And it was at like the best hotel in St. Louis, and they had this like ballroom, and they set up a ring in the ballroom, and they had tables set up all over the place, and people were in tuxes and dresses, and they were just sitting there, sipping champagne and eating their dinner, watching these guys drop kick each other. It was
Right.
a weird thing to watch. I mean, when I was growing up, it was they cleared all that stuff. I was just people sitting there like normal.
Right.
It was still in the same spot, but yeah, it's so weird to go back and see
just how the crowd reacted back then. Like, I think everything from like the 50s and the 60s, it was like a serious event to go to. There wasn't a bunch of craziness. I think once the late 70s hit, I think that's where it really started getting towards where it is kind of now.
Even for other sports. I mean, when the Blues started here, like in '67, they show old clips of it. Every guy's in a suit. I'm like, who goes to a suit for a hockey game?
Yeah.
Montreal they did for years and years and years.
It's like I'd almost wish that would come back. Like go out, get dressed up, and then go see.
It's pretty cool.
I think that'd be great.
I want to bring back the hats. I like the hats.
Oh yeah, like the fedoras.
Yeah, those are awesome. I don't know why they ever went away. I'd wear one.
Absolutely.
Dazzling Dick Durning. What a great name.
Oh, I was trying. That's just the picture I was looking. It's got to be 64-bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ryan Heath and Dazzling Dick Durning. Yeah, that was a local promotion. Like we talked about local promotions. They had a group around here a few years ago. That was two of the guys who sort of ran it, and they operated out of St. John, and they just tore around the province. And they did a lot of maritime wrestling. Back there was no money to be made, and it was fantastic. I tell you. I have an unhappy dog. I got to let him out of the room.
So Chuck, you grew up in Detroit, right? Right around Detroit area?
Yep.
So did they have two different wrestling areas there? Did you have like one that was in the US that was had Detroit in it, and did you have one you could watch on TV from Canada?
I'm sure. I think I think I got more deep into wrestling more as a teenager and into my 20s more than when I was a kid. I think when I was a kid, it was just WWF and watching Hogan and Andre the Giant, George the Animal, just all that stuff during the 80s, I think was my memory as a kid growing up. And then kind of had that hiatus where that's where I'm like, oh, who is that? Who is that? And then kick back into like 95. I kind of was like, oh, okay, this is what's going on. And then kind of followed it from that point on. So yeah, I mean, back in the day, it was usually just WWF. I'm sure we get the Canadian channels right here because we're literally 30 minutes from the border. So yeah, so I grew up on a lot of different Canadian TV. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure those were there. I probably just wasn't aware or went that deep into wrestling at the time.
What was the wrestling like area that you had? Was it NWA or AWA?
Yeah, there was that. I remember NWA. Yeah, AWA sounds familiar, but I mean the big one. I think. Just the when the 80s hit, it was all about Hulk Hogan. I mean, I think when I first started showing interest. I mean, I kind of knew of it before then because then you had was it Dick the Bruiser?
I'm glad you mentioned him because I've only seen him in St. Louis. I didn't see him anywhere else. I was like, where else did he wrestle? I know he had.
He was a Detroit guy too. And then eventually they had. Awesome. It was kind of weird. We had a radio station that had him on there, but then even after he left, they had or I think it was after he passed. Like I think, I'm trying to remember what year. And then they had like a guy go on, and it kept they kept the character going
of Dick the Bruiser.
Dick the Bruiser on the radio, and it was. I always thought it was so strange. I'm like, yeah, it really can't, unless it was something he said and said, no, keep it going. Like I'm still, which I wouldn't doubt a wrestler would do something like that. But yeah, I remember that just and not much, but I remember this. I think it was WLLZ Detroit radio, if I'm not mistaken.
Interesting.
Had Dick the Bruiser, either that or WRIF, one of the two. But it was, and they had the character of Dick the Bruiser, because eventually it was not
Colonel
him.
Sanders, huh? Just have
Yeah,
people.
I guess, or the Burger King guy. I don't know. I don't know.
I told
guess you could just get anybody.
Chuck, I told Pete on a different show, but that my favorite wrestler of all time is King Kong Brody, otherwise known as Bruiser Brody.
Bruiser Brody.
Yeah.
But I didn't know until we got cable, and then when I started seeing him, I was like, "Why are these people calling him Bruiser Brody?" It's like he's King Kong Brody.
The different territories and different.
Yeah. I found out that because Dick the Bruiser was in the NWA when he wrestled in St. Louis, he changed his name to King Kong Brody because he had so much respect for Dick the Bruiser. He didn't want to encroach on his whole nickname.
Oh wow,
So I was like, "Oh, that's really cool."
that is.
And then watch that thing on Brody too, the Dark Side of the Ring. You find out he was like a really good guy, and he was a pretty smart guy. He was getting into the business instead of just wrestling. He was trying to own.
I got to watch that one. I really want to see that one.
It's exceptional, but it's
very sad though. It's unfortunate because
Yeah.
he was such a great wrestler.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, I got a good picture I could show you guys. A really good picture if we're talking wrestling. Give me a second. I'm gonna grab when I go to the bathroom. I'm gonna go grab that picture. I'm surprised I haven't showed that because you guys always talk wrestling. I'm surprised I haven't brought this up. But actually, you know what? Let me go grab it. I'll be right back.
I had this.
This is gonna be epic too.
Awesome.
Right on.
I had this old wrestling book that came out in the early '80s, and it was just like a picture book. It was nothing but photos of old wrestlers from the '70s and early '80s. And I don't have it anymore. I wish I still had it. It could be so cool. So
I had all those ones. We used to get when we go right here in town. They had Atlantic Grand Prix Wrestling, and they even called it, of course, back in the TV days before the nationalization. It was World Grand Prix Wrestling because the whole world's right here in Atlantic, Canada, right? And they used to come to the little arena here in town, and there'd be maybe 1,000 people, I don't even think it'd probably be that much. And man, you could buy all the pictures, and they'd autograph, and even the heels would scribble on it and stuff for you and such. Oh yeah. Sort of looking. One of my favorites always a Cuban Assassin, and of course his son wrestles now, and we may have him on the show sometime, hopefully soon. He's off filming another movie right now. But Richie Acevedo.
That'd be cool to get an actual wrestler on.
Yeah, exactly. We're looking at doing that sometime in the very near future. It'd be a lot of fun. I'm sure Richie would probably do that when he's got some time.
When I sent you that video of Wrestling at Chase, I had to laugh because I was watching it. It's just so funny. It's like King Kong Brody instead of Bruiser Brody. It was Ted DiBiase instead of Ted DiBiase.
Yeah, that's right.
It was so weird. It's like, I don't know why they called him that in St. Louis. I don't know if they call him that in other areas too, but because I remember once I saw him outside of St. Louis, I was like, DiBiase, what are you talking about? It's Ted DiBiase.
Ted DiBiase.
I don't know. Maybe they just like to change names of wrestlers here. I don't know.
I never heard of the guy before he came over as $1 Million Man, though. Right?
Oh, he was wrestling. He was huge here in St. Louis because he was he was a rookie in '82 or something, maybe even earlier. He was a tall, skinny guy back then, but he was a great wrestler. And he was Missouri state champion a couple of times, I think. And so he wrestled here a lot. And he was really popular, really good. It's like, for me, it was the opposite. It was like seeing him in the WWF or WWE as $1 Million Man. It was just so weird. Because I was like, that's $1 Million Man.
Here he comes.
Oh, is this framed?
All right, sorry, just killed two birds with one stone. The bathroom man to get the picture.
You got to do what you got to do.
Well, I've been on this new diet, and all I'm doing is just drinking water and water and water. And after one full beer, I'm like, oh my goodness, I got to go to the bathroom.
That's not water.
So I told you guys that, back in the day, starting with the question about your favorite tag team, I like the Rockers. Shawn Michaels, love him or hate him, And anyways, I don't know if you guys knew he was a big fan of DJC Game Studios, but 3 years ago, you could see that.
There you go.
Wow.
Nice.
Oh, that is awesome.
I was trying to find the actual like small photo so it wouldn't show like glare, but yeah, you can kind of see it. This is probably my most prized possession. I actually got to do a meet and greet here in Detroit and talk to him for a little bit and then get that personal picture. And I was thinking, oh, this guy's going to be kind of an SOB. He's not going to care about his fan or anything. And he was like, oh my God. Oh, it's so great to meet you and blah, blah. And sat there talking to me. Oh, you do music. And I was, I'm still releasing music. And then of course my first tattoo ever was D-Generation X.
Oh, there you go.
So I'm I'm definitely a wrestling fan for life now. But anyways, I thought that would be kind of cool since you showed that picture of Atlas. I was like, I got to show mine, my one and only.
My God. Yes, absolutely.
That is awesome.
That's something else. No, I don't like him.
Oh, I figured. Well, I figured that. I guess
things have changed. Like he's changed, right? He's a different
well, I
person
think he was such a. When him and Brett made up, I almost teared up on that. I thought, wow, that was epic. And then seeing a lot of their backstage, them hanging out and talking to fans, and even newer times where I was like, they really did bury the hatchet, because a lot of times that stuff can be faked. And I was like, wow, he really is a changed guy, because back, I first started watching him on his singles career, but he was so drugged out of his mind. But it almost, I hate to say it, but it made me go, oh, this guy's a real jackass. He's really one you want to, because I love the heel, and he was that heel,
For sure. Yeah.
He's been retired for a while, hasn't he? Or is he still wrestling?
Yeah, he's running NXT now. Like it's really weird. He's one of the only wrestlers like the McMahon family basically just kind of took in. No matter what, he made a lot of mistakes, and they just, I don't know, something between him and McMahon had just a real close relationship.
But he's not wrestling. He's just like running NXT.
He's training the guys, running, and I think he's helping with writing. But yeah, I'm just kind of.
I just watched a Broken Skull session with Undertaker, Steve Austin. Interviews guys, and they talk about Shawn Michaels, about how he got out early. He retired early.
Oh yeah. He went out on top, that's a way to go.
Which
I guess
is a really smart idea, because I'm sure he'll be glad he did that in 20 years from now.
When his bones are just
when he's able to walk around.
Michaels?
Oh yeah.
That you talking about is Shawn Michaels?
Yeah, he retired at, I think he was 42 when he retired.
He was young right through, yeah.
Yeah, because I'm gonna be 46, and he was 42 in his retirement. And
hey Chris.
Hey.
Chris.
Hey, check out this beer.
Oh, hey Mabel, it's Black Label.
That's right. Sponsor. This is another one. I should get this to be my new sponsor.
That's just about as friggin' archaic as Tab.
It is. And there's a store here that gets like a few cases of this once a year down the street from me.
Oh, wow.
And I always buy like 3-4 cases, whatever they have. And then it lasts me a little bit. I don't drink it all at once, but nice classic beer. I love it.
Next thing you know, you're going to be pulling out Pabst Blue Ribbon.
Oh, that's okay, but it's to me, I'll take a Black Label any day over the Pabst Blue Ribbon.
Yeah, I can remember Black Label last time. I remember it was not yesterday, and it was like $2.99 a 12-pack.
Yeah.
Or
a Schlitz.
A Schlitz, yeah. That was actually a top-notch beer back in the 70s, right? It was one of the.
I always liked Miller High Life.
Yeah.
And now it's funny because like I drank it back in the day because it was cheap, and now it's like the trendy thing. Oh, look, we're drinking Miller High. That's kind of the we're with Pabst and everything. Look, we're drinking these cheap beers because we're cool and trendy. It's like, what?
That's cool.
Schlitz used to have a brewery here a long time ago, because I had
that's great.
I had a relative that worked for Schlitz, and then another one that worked for Anheuser-Busch later on. So much beer here in St. Louis. Pete, you'd love it.
I like it. I think that's just a perfect place I had to come visit someday.
Michigan has a ton of craft beer breweries here too. I think the whole Midwest is right in this area is just full of it. You know, it's just amazing.
Oh, yeah. There's tons of.
Taught my kids well.
Huh? Very nice.
He used to say though when he was young, you know, he said, "I always go to a party. I always take Pabst Blue Ribbon because you can buy it in the bargain bins here, still right here in New Brunswick." And he'd always take Pabst Blue Ribbon. He said, "Because whenever I set down my beer, when I see it, I know it's mine because no one
else is drinking it."
Blue Ribbon.
And also, you'll have some left. You can take it back with you.
That's right. That's right. You see somebody with a Pabst, it's like, "Hey, get out of my beer."
Right.
Yeah. I remember I was mentioning about Richie there. I got another little picture of 64-bit and I at the second time we went to see Atlantic Grand Prix. This is sort of after the fact. That's Richie Acevedo. He's been in quite a few movies as well. Wrestle Massacre, which is available on Tubi, and he's wrestled in the indies throughout. His father was a really big wrestler in Stampede Wrestling and Atlantic Grand Prix back in the pre-WWF days. Yeah, so
I'm loving the T-shirt you're wearing in that. Looking at that.
I know, that's cool.
Yeah, I got the boys. He's got the Macho Man one on. Oh yeah, geez, that was a few years ago too. So yeah, gotta love that. I love the local wrestling and going to see it. This was like Richie's from down south. They brought him in. I tell you who runs the Atlantic Grand Prix Wrestling was run by the owner was Emile Dupre. And actually, Emile Gagnon, his son, is Rene Dupre, who you may remember was one of the La Resistance in the WWF. They were the tag team champions.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And at the time, he was the youngest person in history to ever hold a belt. And I think he actually still is. He still does some wrestling. He brought Richie up to wrestle. There was probably about 10 of them putting on a show in one of the towns nearby. It was a lot of fun. Richie was a really great guy. I talk to him every once in a while on Facebook and stuff. And yeah, so I'm hoping that's who I'm hoping to have an interview with maybe someday soon. Jeff and I'll have him on the show too, just to talk to him about the indie wrestling scene and life before, after, and during, right?
That's awesome. Like I said, my buddy's in that whole scene. He's I met Marty Giannetti through him.
Okay, yeah.
Oh,
He
cool.
showed up to one of because there was an independent show out here, and he was one of just the featured guests on there. And then I've seen Rhino's been coming here a lot. They had usually Edge every once in a while would show up, but he would make an appearance. And then who else did it? And then Ring of Honor. Did you ever watch any Ring of Honor or go to any Ring of Honor shows?
It's still on, isn't it?
It is.
I think it's owned by a different company, or they kind of rebranded it. But back in the day, I shouldn't say that long ago. My buddy was doing a tryout for Ring of Honor, and he was wrestling on a show. I went and saw it, and this was, maybe 5 years ago, 6 years ago. I could be a little bit off on that. And who was wrestling there but Mr. Wrestling, Kevin Steen, which ended up becoming Kevin Owens in WWE.
Right.
And I saw him, and I'm like, oh, I should buy one of his T-shirts because it said the KS and duct tape on his shirt. And I'm like, those are cool. I should buy one. This guy's going to be someone. And then I went, no, what am I thinking? Next thing you know, like a year later, I see him on WWE and he's rebranded as Kevin Owens. And I was like, yeah. And he comes out with the same design T-shirt with the duct tape, like print. I go, oh my God. And I look online and the T-shirts are going for like $200-$300. I'm like, could you imagine if I bought like 5 shirts, kept one and sold the others?
Good old Canadian boy too.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah. But like I said, we got all them right here, we're right across the river. So
right.
Yeah, it was fantastic. But I'll never forget that. Just some of those independent shows, you're going to meet that one guy that has the one leg. What is that?
Zach.
I met him too at a show about 3 years ago. Zach, yeah, he was in WWE for a little run, and then
we were talking about him the other day or a couple weeks ago, right, Jeff? Zach Gowan.
Someone in the chat, and I forgot who it was, said,
great wrestler.
Said he could technically never lose a battle royale match where you get thrown over the top.
That's right.
You're right.
Both
Both feet have to hit the floor.
He can just keep hopping back in.
But I tell you what, I saw it like for 5 feet in front of me, like I was right next to the ring, and how he could maneuver his body and flip and fly and like flip backwards and land on his leg, like.
Yep.
you're like, this guy is unbelievable. He just made his handicap like his gimmick, and it worked. Yeah. Unfortunately, I mean, he didn't have very long.
Right, he had no size, but he had the agility was phenomenal.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and it was entertaining enough that was back when Hogan was doing the Mr. America thing, wasn't it? Or remember that back in 03, 04?
Oh yeah, when he was doing the rock? Oh no, you're talking about 03, 04. Okay.
Yeah, that was I saw him in 03 in Halifax, Nova Scotia, and he was Mr. America at that gimmick, and that was back when he was saying Hulk Hogan was banned from wrestling, but Mr. America was making his big debut, and every once in a while he'd pull the mask up, pull it back down again.
Yep.
Yeah, and then he did something stupid and said something on camera and got actually kicked out. So yeah,
he's made a few mistakes. I tell you what.
So okay, I'm trying to think of some of the little tangents I was thinking about earlier. Jeff, have you seen the latest, the Jake the Snake Roberts Dark Side of the Ring?
I watched it yesterday.
What first thing I'm going to comment is I really sincerely, as much as I follow wrestling, did not know. I may have heard it somewhere down the road, but I did not remember that those three wrestlers were related. I knew Grizzly Smith was Jake Roberts' father because it was in Beyond the Mat. I did not know.
Which is an epic show too.
Oh yes, absolutely.
I remember that.
Houston and Rockin' Robin, those three were siblings. I did not know that. Did you know that?
No, I had no idea it was a wrestling family. I mean, dad and three kids all wrestled. No clue. And it's so funny that did you hear what his sister, Rockin' Robin, when she first started wrestling, when she was walking in the ring, someone asked her, well, what do you want to be called? And she goes, Rockin' Robin. Sounds good.
Yeah.
It's that on the spot.
And she wrote it to the Women's Championship in the WWF. But first on, but I felt sort of bad because before that show, I was sort of making fun of women's wrestling back in the day that it wasn't as good. And Beulah and then Wendy Richter. And then it said, next thing you know, turned around and there was like this Rockin' Robin. Who the hell was that? Well, it turns out she was like, and I never watched wrestling. It was just, I was ignorant to say that, really. Just ignorant as in not knowing. Okay.
Yeah.
And truth be known, she had the capability and she had the pedigree to be a great wrestler. But that being said, there's a reason that family wasn't promoted as being family, right? And of all the shows, the Dark Sides of the Ring have been some pretty brutal shows. And I think that's the only one I remember so far that started off with a disclaimer saying this could be hard to watch for some people.
Pete, in that, when Robin was talking, she made mention that the WWF got rid of women's wrestling. When was that?
Really, in the late 80s, it did not exist very much. I mean, they had Wendy Richter. Rockin' Robin come in maybe 86, 87, but there was nothing really until Medusa Michelli come back in. Or she was just, no, she was Alundra Blaze.
Now, wasn't that... I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say, wasn't that when Glow was starting up too?
Glow was in, what year? I went down, I sort of remember this because I went down and saw a football game in Boston in 1988, a preseason game. And I can remember the night after the game, Glow was on one of the stations down there, and I remember watching it, as cheesy as it was. That this is even after. I'm thinking that they sort of strung it along, and it's very possible that when Alundra Blaze jumped ship and went to WCW around 94, 95. That was, I don't know if you've seen her or not, but she was the champion.
And she got the belt in the wastebasket. Yep.
Belt in the garbage can. I think that was it. There was no women's wrestling for quite a few years.
Wow, I had no idea.
Until really Lita brought it back. Lita was the first one, and then they brought Trish Stratus into it. Then it was just bra and panties matches and friggin' matches for so long, and then they realized that some of these ladies could wrestle, and they brought in, like, Trish learned how to wrestle. Lita always could wrestle.
Oh yeah.
And they brought in like Mickey James and Jazz, and
I love Mickey James to this day. She just got released too.
Yes, she did. Yeah.
And so I really hope she goes to one of the others as well. I want to see her.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and she will, undoubtedly, but she's not as young as she used to be, obviously.
No, that is true. Boy, what a beautiful woman, though. She's so. I always had a crush on her.
I think she's had a pretty successful music career though too. Like she
Yeah.
makes the money. She's had charting hits in the country genre,
Oh,
which
okay.
I'm not big on, but
Right.
she had charting hits in the country charts.
It just blows me away that they got rid of women's wrestling and it's so huge now.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's basically the same as the guys as far as like athleticism and like just brutality.
Oh, there was a match I saw 3 weeks ago on AEW, and it was Dr. Britt Baker, DMD or whatever. She's like a dentist. But she came down, and I forgot the other wrestler. And it was their main event. And my buddy goes, and he's not an AEW fan, and he goes, "You need to watch this main event. You know, I usually don't like your other league that you watch." He goes, "But this was one for the books." And I go, "You got to be kidding me!" I turn it on. I'm like, "Okay, it's her." And they pull out barbed wire. They pull out a bag of thumbtacks, chairs.
Oh.
They brutally beat the heck out of each other till they were blood red. And I mean, and it was really a good match. And afterwards, everybody's like, you know, I mean, for whoever was there at the time, I think they had not opened everything yet, but
Wow.
oh my good. I was really blown away. They did a match like you think it was Terry Funk and Mankind, you know?
Wow.
Yeah, it was brutal.
Yeah, I've been watching a lot of women's wrestling, like Sasha Banks and Bailey and Charlotte Flair, and
Somewhere
like
along
Charlotte.
the line. Yeah, I do too.
Really like her.
Charlotte Flair is scary.
She is. She's a beast too, but she's a fantastic wrestler.
Yeah, no, she is.
I've been watching a lot of Alexa Bliss matches, Pete, because
Yeah.
I just started getting back into wrestling, Chuck, just a few months ago.
Yeah.
And every time I saw Alexa Bliss, she'd come out with that weirdo Fiend guy. I'm like,
Yeah.
what? I was like, what is this? Like, 'cause I asked Pete, I said,
Bray
"Does she
Wyatt.
even wrestle?" He goes, "Oh yeah, she was champion. She used to wrestle a lot." It's like, I've never even seen her. So I've been going back and looking at it. She's like, I don't know if she's 5 feet tall. The top rope comes up to here on her. But man, she is vicious in the ring.
Yeah, she's pretty good too. Right now, I just haven't watched the last year. I've very rarely been watching WWE, and I don't know if I just don't like. I don't feel they're going in any type of direction. Like they're almost stuck. I think the last time I watched it was like Seth Rollins again in the main match. I'm like, oh boy, okay, okay. And then like a lot of new people that they're trying to push like right away, and it just seems like a bunch of guys wearing superhero costumes.
Yeah.
Trying to wrestle, and then they have so many rules in WWE now where, you can't do any chokes, you can't do this, you can't do this. If you see blood, turn the camera away or turn it black and white. It's like, come on, man, like is this a
Is this bleeding in WWF?
No, you're not unless it's an accident. They they won't do any hardcore matches. They won't do. No. And I'm not saying that it needs to be that, but my goodness, like they literally go out of their way to be like, be super careful. And then when the other, not to really go on a tangent here, but like there was a match was it Rey Mysterio? It was a pay-per-view over the lockdown last year. And my buddy goes, "You got to watch this." And they go, "Oh my goodness," the commentators, "Oh my goodness." I think it's Michael Cole or whoever was doing. Yeah. "Oh my goodness." His eyeball came out, and he's holding like a plastic Halloween eyeball that you put like in a drink. And they acted like it was his eyeball. And I was like, are they joking? And they were really trying to push that. Well, they messed up, and it was so cheesy. And they're like, "Well, that's our main event, folks." I'm like, "Oh, this is terrible." I'm like, a click. Now I know why I stopped watching.
Well, there was one I was watching where they were pushing a zombie movie.
Oh, yeah,
zombies like come into the match.
That was terrible.
I was like, and the announcers were trying to act like it was real. Like, what?
Lumberjack match with zombies.
Yeah, it was a lumberjack match with zombies.
Yeah, it's terrible. And I'll go back and say this, like, somebody else mentioned, like, you're talking about when did it end? I don't know if any of you guys remember these guys. Lance brings up the Jumping Bomb Angels. They're in one of the, what was it? It was one of the pay-per-view quote unquote weirdo things they had, like that was like Zeus and Macho Man versus Hogan and whoever the blazes it was. And then the other match was the Jumping Bomb Angels, which were in from Japan, were the good for the women's tag team championship, which didn't exist, but they created it. And the women against them, they had Judy Martin and Lalani Kai, who they just put in gold hair, and they did a little promo for them to bring these jumping bomb angels in. And it was like then they had probably 6 wrestlers on the roster, women, and it was a novelty. And I'll say it just like this: it was a novelty that day, just like the midget wrestlers. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
It was. And somewhere along the lines, when these ladies come in, like Trish Stratus and Lita and stuff, they earned respect, and they had to go through their era where they had the bra and panties matches and the the gravy wrestling matches.
Oh, yeah.
But,
and Jerry the King Lawler going, oh my God, this is great.
These women, they realize that they're putting on better entertainment, more entertaining, more athletic matches than most of these big behemoths just pounding on each other. And away they went. And now, like Jeff said, oh my God, it's better. I also wanted to point out, I had this up there for a while, but
yeah, I was about to comment on that. I'm glad you pulled it up. I was like, that is a travesty. That was such a great show.
100%.
So great.
Do you remember? I can still remember the day I found that show, because I always sort of like, yes, that Glow was super, super cheese. But I can remember finding that show and just sort of flipping on, what the heck is this all about? This is interesting. I remember that, and watching the first episode. And then, well, that was pretty good, and watched the second episode. And before I noticed, I had friggin' binged the whole thing, like 8 or 10 episodes, whatever it was. And it was like unreal. And then waiting for the second season, and then waiting for the third season, which I will say, I didn't like the third season as much as the first 2.
Right.
But
is that the Vegas? Is that the Vegas season?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, so I've seen them all then. So they just never came back after that.
And they just canceled them. And it's a great show.
Yeah, and then the guy that played their manager, that actor was such such a phenomenal job doing that part on hiding his whole heart issue and stuff. It was just, he was such a good character. I mean, they all were great characters, but yeah, I really loved that show, and I do remember it, and not as much, so that almost refreshed me on how it was, and I thought that was just a great take on the story.
There's actually a good documentary that was on Netflix. I believe it was Netflix, that tells the story of Glow, like the real true story of Glow, start to finish, and with a reunion at the end that includes, what was her name? Mount Fiji.
Yeah, yeah.
And she just recently passed away too, within the last year or two. But anyway, it includes her. She was kind of bedridden, and they brought her back for the reunion. And the talks about a lot of them, what they're doing now and the time. And it's a really it's about an hour and a half long. Very, very worthwhile watching. I highly recommend that documentary on the Gorgeous Lady of Wrestling.
Is it on Prime?
I believe it was on Netflix. When it was
on Netflix. Okay.
Yeah, I believe it was. But Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling is just not. It's just not the series, the fictional quote unquote acting series. It's an actual documentary about the real people. Very, very entertaining. Very entertaining.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to watch that for sure.
Yeah. Caper Dave, you're absolutely right. For me, I enjoyed it. That the tide turned for me the year that I was watching the Royal Rumble, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and it wasn't over. They brought the men out and had the men's Royal Rumble. And
I know what you're talking about.
It's going to be the last match. What are they doing, for Pete's sakes? This is stupid. And they brought the women out for the fun. Now this is gonna, and it was incredible.
It was better.
Such a better show than the men.
It was way better. I remember I was like, they're going to headline that? Yep. And I went, wow, they just kicked the butt out of those guys. The guys had nothing on these. And I think they were just like, we got to do this, phenomenal.
I'll tell you right now, if I watch a pay-per-view and I'll look at the women's match, look at the men's match, never ever before that particular issue would I ever even consider, really, for whatever reason, call it sexist, call it just experience, or call
it how coming up. Yeah,
I would never have expected the women's match to be headline over top of the championship men's match. And now, frankly, I've watched more where I'd much rather watch the women's championship match than the Roman Reigns match.
Oh God, I'd watch anybody than the Roman Reigns match. And I hate to say the guy's got the look, but he's not a good wrestler. And I'm just as a fan. I mean, who am I? But I am not a fan. And I think they keep trying to push him, and they have for years. And
Yeah.
I know he's had some personal problems and all that. And God bless him. I probably an awesome guy, but I mean, you can only push someone so far, and then even your audience goes, boos him. It doesn't want him.
He was a face for years, and they tried to push him as the big guy, the next John Cena, the next Hulk Hogan, the next Shawn Michaels, whatever.
Right.
And people hated him.
Yeah.
And so they decide now they turn the bad guy. People still hate him. So
of course, yeah, it's kind of over now. It's just he's got put a bad taste because they've been shoving him down. They put him, gave him every title opportunity, had him beat the Undertaker. Oh,
yep.
Like, why would you? They were like, oh, that'll get him over. Like, nope.
No, that just made him all that much more hated.
Yeah, so, pretty much.
He's almost a turn. Okay, Roman Reigns is coming on to finish her up. Well, I go to bed early. Good.
Yeah, I'll turn that match off, unfortunately. Yeah. Not saying he's probably not a great guy just as a wrestler. I'm sorry. I just can't take him.
I'm sick and tired of what they've done with him because it's been so predictable and so contrived, I guess is a good way to put it with him.
Yeah, I kind of watched part of the last WrestleMania. I mean, I really fast forwarded and maybe watched a snippet of the final. And he's coming out with Paul Heyman now.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so they're like, oh, this will get him because everybody loves Paul Heyman. It's like, no, still, I'm kind of embarrassed that Paul Heyman's even coming out with him. I'm like, he was always with CM Punk and Brock Lesnar, and that was just fearsome, respected wrestlers and fighters. And then, no, you throw him with Roman Reigns.
Yeah. I got to laugh because he's not his manager. He's his special counsel.
True.
Well,
yeah. I miss the era of managers. I love Dr. Style Slick and Mouth of the South Jimmy Hart and Classy Pretty Blassie. Here's one. Do you remember the Grand Wizard of Wrestling?
The Grand Wizard of Wrestling.
Yeah. That old shriveled up guy, and he had the turban thing on his head.
Ernie Roth was his name. Yeah.
Wow.
He's dead long before he's back. He's Fred Blassie era when Freddie was
Classy Freddie Blassie. Yep. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Why do you think they got rid of managers? They added so much to it. I don't know why they got rid of them.
I don't know.
Who was the guy? Oh, the Brother Love. Remember Brother Love with his preaching, and he had the red makeup.
Yeah. And he's on a lot of Dark Side of the Ring as well, right?
Oh,
because he's Bruce Pritchard is who it is, and it was sort of like an alternate personality that they brought him in. He had been involved with wrestling forever. And they created this character and brought him in with Ted DiBiase just because I don't know why exactly. Just it was an interesting.
They probably thought it was so funny backstage that they turned him into a character. That's what I love when they do stuff like that, kind of life imitating art or art imitating life, I should say.
I mean, ultimately, the purpose of a manager was to be the voice because this manager would have the gift of gab, and some wrestlers who were phenomenal physical specimens with incredible wrestling abilities couldn't say 2 + 2 = 4.
Right. And that's kind of my favorite meme is when Roman Reigns, after the Shield broke up, because the Shield, boy, they were phenomenal.
Yeah.
And then when they all went solo, Ambrose or Moxley now, he's over in AEW as well.
Yeah.
And so much better over there. I mean, the way they're using him is perfect. But yeah, so he kind of got a little popularity. And then you had Roman Reigns going under, with Hunter Hearst Helmsley. And then, it seemed like Roman Reigns went out and this meme came out, and because whenever he grabbed a mic, he would like stutter and get nervous and wouldn't know how to talk. And it was a picture of like Roman Reigns going with the microphone, and above it had The Rock going like this, and it goes, I guess mic skills don't run in the family. I was like, oh, brutal. So true.
Speaking of John Moxley, though, Mama C loves John Moxley now because he was so good in that Nick Gage episode of Dark Side of the Ring. Do you remember who I mean, Jeff?
Yeah.
Oh, I gotta, man, I really need to watch more of that. Like it just.
That's from this season, and it's a good one as well. I've not watched one yet that hasn't been. I surmise that when we did our show 2 weeks ago, we talked just about Dark Side of the Ring, which we end up doing a lot because there's so much to talk about. But I said, if you're not a wrestling fan, you're going to turn on this show, and you're going to be mesmerized, and you're going to sit down and want to watch the whole thing. But if you are, a wrestling fan, it's going to be just like crack. You aren't going to be able to get enough of it.
Yeah.
It's the honest to God truth, though. It's the honest to God truth. It's that good. It's that well made.
And my thing's all about timing. Because there's so much stuff I need to watch, and it's like I'll usually edit or be doing something with my arcades and be out and then I'll come home and I'll be like, and then people like, hey man, you never get to see it, your friends, and I go try, and I by the time I get home, I have like a 2-hour window to watch something, and and I always, but like I watched, like I said, a few select episodes, and boy, you guys are just making me want to watch that tonight. Like I'm gonna have to at least get a couple episodes in.
Yeah. No, it's worth it.
Even the ones you don't know anything about, they're fascinating.
Oh yeah, there's a lot. That was the ones I started watching. I was like, I mean, I knew about Moolah from, obviously when she was way older and, in the 90s, but I was like, man, and Mae Young, and all that, but I was like, man, I never knew this. This is phenomenal.
Moolah was old when I was in high school.
Yeah, I think she seemed like she was always
somehow
old.
She lasted like 30 more years. It's insane. Like,
what was it? That was Mae Young and Mark Henry, where she gave birth to the Hand.
That was, yep.
That was a low point right there in wrestling. Hilarious. But
between that and what was the girlfriend there? Vic?
Oh,
Kane's girlfriend.
The one that we kept like, I forgot what did she kept saying to him, like she kept like egging him on and made him like beat up everyone.
Yeah, sort of in his mind.
Yeah, in his mind. Yeah,
played up where he crawled into the casket with her. So it was bizarre. Yeah,
so weird. Oh yeah, that's right, at the funeral, right?
Yes, exactly.
Oh, I almost forgot about that. Kane, such a talk about a dedicated wrestler that just did. I mean, that guy. They should just give that guy I don't know, like a gold bar. Like that guy is so awesome. And then he comes back again with Daniel Bryan on the anger management skits, and they had their whole run as Team Hell No, and with good wrestling too, like really good wrestling as well as a comedy. That was one of my favorites.
We need to do an episode on the Broken Skull sessions. That show is so good. And
have you watched any of those, Chuck? Sorry,
no, I've heard of it, and I can't remember if I've seen. Well, I remember seeing Undertaker on the Steve Austin podcast. I don't know if that's the same thing though. That was like a year ago.
Right.
I think so. I think that's the same thing.
Unless it's the same thing. And
what it evolved into. Yeah. I'm sorry, Jeff. I cut you off. What were you?
No, I just said I think it's the same thing.
Okay.
It's basically a podcast. I mean, they're just showing it on TV now.
Yeah.
But it's so interesting the way they go into the real life stuff. Like they were showing the Undertaker. He was showing how, I forgot what match it was, but he actually got pretty much knocked out. He got a concussion, and he said he doesn't have any memory of that match. Matter of fact, he doesn't have any memory up until like a few hours before the match. So I
think that was the WrestleMania where Brock Lesnar actually.
Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, because I almost thought, I was like, was that not supposed to happen? Yeah, and have they really told us the truth? Maybe that wasn't, because it literally, there was it was like a second before the bell rang. You see him scan the crowd, and everybody's like, and that one guy with his eyes are like that, and everybody's looking, and all of a sudden you hear the bell ring, and then people are like, what? And it's like silent, and like, your winner, Brock Lesnar, and Taker's like laying there in a daze, and then he collapses right behind, backstage as he gets back there. Yeah, and I remember him in that his like retirement documentary on the network,
right?
Where he goes, the last thing I remember is right before the match. He goes, then I was in the hospital, and they're like, "What's your name?" Unbelievable, just like I figured something went wrong on that match, but yeah, I mean, Lesnar's a UFC beast, literally.
To hear the wrestlers talk about. Talk about the stuff that's all fake, but they just speak about it matter of factly, it's all part of the business, and how you sell things, and they talk about who's a good worker, who can help sell your moves, and more importantly, who can you wrestle who isn't gonna hurt you by doing something stupid, like Ultimate Warrior apparently was a notorious for being an idiot. In the ring.
Kind of a hyperactive dude.
Another good episode there. Another good episode there. Yeah.
That was on Dark Side as well?
Yep.
Oh, 2 episodes ago, yeah.
Oh, I've definitely watched. Okay, that's the first one I'm
man,
watching.
You haven't seen that. If you're a wrestling fan, you have to watch it. There's no
Yeah,
way
I want to see that.
Yeah, it's not one. And to me, it's in the bottom half of being good. It was damn good, but it's in the bottom half of my favorite episodes. You know, so I've never listened to this. Caper Dave asked if any of us listen to Bruce Pritchard's podcast or any of the other wrestling podcasts. Lots of behind the scenes stories. I don't, because Chuck, you hit the nail on the head when you talked about time. It's hard to find time to listen to everything and watch.
It really is. There's so much stuff I want to listen to, watch, and have the time, and there's just so much stuff on my daily schedule.
Oh, that's right.
Like I said, it comes down to a window at night. You're like, should I go to sleep and get a good night's sleep, or should I try to fall asleep watching something? And most of the time, I'll spend like an hour or 2 hours watching stuff, if I can.
Hey, Chris, that's what she said.
Stiff. Boy, that was stiff. Hey, you guys ever see the video of, I think it's Vader, where his eyeball comes out of the socket?
Oh, no.
I think.
I think it's Vader. If I'm wrong, it might be, or it's definitely, but it's a very an older match. I want to say early 80s, maybe like 82, 81. And he's fighting, and his eyeball literally and he's looking at the floor. And he goes like this, pops it back in, finish the match. My buddy showed me that. I go, oh God. I was like, it was pretty cool, but I was like, at the same time, I was like, oh, I could never watch that again.
He should have grabbed it and like kind of periscoped it around.
Right. Like, I guess he said like, it looked like all of a sudden he felt like he was looking at the mat. And of course his eyeball was out of socket looking down. I forgot who he was wrestling. But yeah, stuff like that happens. Like, Shawn Michaels' eye was injured, I think, in a match. What did he say? It was in a match with Kane. I mean, it had nothing to do with Kane, but it was like, I don't know if they were doing Hell in the Cell, or he took a fall or hit a hit wrong or did something, and it dislodged, like it tore a muscle in his eyeball. And that's why he's got that lazy eye now. He tried to find that match.
Yeah. The Nick Cage that episode, Connor, is excellent for sure. Yeah. No, that was you got right. Attention. Yeah.
It was you. I was just like, what is this? He's like, just watch. I'm like, oh, come on. You got to warn me.
Yeah, really. I still remember watching that you were talking earlier about the Mick Foley, and we talked about this couple weeks, the Mick Foley in Chainsaw Charlie, who was Terry Funk. Remember his spin as Chainsaw Charlie? But their deathmatch tournament in Japan one time, and it was just incredible. Barbed wire, fluorescent light bulbs, thumbtacks.
There was I don't know.
Four explosives.
Have you ever seen the Strangle Mania, where it's basically it's Insane Clown Posse, in pseudo wrestling, they're wrestling announcer characters, and they commentate over those old Terry Funk and all those Japan death matches with the Headhunters and the Mick Foley and all that. And Mick Foley eventually they went and made a deal, they paid him and everything for it, but they used all those tapes. Wow. And that was the first time I saw some of those Japan Terry Funk matches, of course, with a hilarious commentary. And I was like, and then after that, I was like, I had so much respect for Terry Funk that when he kind of came into WWE and they're like, this guy's a legend. People are like, who? I'm like, no, this guy is a legend. I watched him on all these old tapes. And it was so amazing. They also had Greg the Hammer Valentine, little trivia on their show. On I forgot what channel it was on. It was cable channel. It was called the Insane Clown Posse Theater, where they made fun of videos. And their bouncer in the theater, they had Greg the Hammer Valentine in like the little bellhop kind of theater outfit, but he's all like this. And he sat there, and then they'd have all these celebrities come in and sit with them, and they'd do all their silly stuff. And then you'd hear the ring bell hit, and Greg the Hammer come on. He wouldn't talk. He'd just go. and he'd pick him up by the arm, and he'd say, "It's time to go, brother. The hammer says you got to go. You got to go." And he escorted him out, and they had like, I think 2 seasons of it. It was hilarious.
He tells some great stories. There's some great shoot interviews on YouTube with Greg the Hammer and Brutus together.
Oh yeah,
talking about days gone by as the. I think I shared some with you, haven't I? Or you share with me, maybe Jeff.
I've seen a lot of them now, and they're keep popping up in my stream too.
My absolute favorite one though is when they're sitting there talking, and all of a sudden Brutus is sitting there. Of course, I can remember first put up there, and Mama C remembers the guys from way back and goes, "Oh my God, that's Brutus Beefcake. He looks like he's a 65-year-old man now, right?" So it's Perry. There he is, and Brutus is sitting there. The Hammer's talking, and all of a sudden, Brutus decides to do the one cheek sneak. Only it's not much of a sneak. Boom.
Perry.
Yeah, Brutus doesn't look so good anymore.
No.
Yeah, like you said, I mean, he's old.
But they put on a good show, entertaining as hell to listen to them tell the stories.
Plus, he had that horrible accident.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Ugh.
The parasailing?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, wow.
See you later, 64-bit. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Anyway, guys, on that note, we've been going for an hour and a half.
Oh, wow. It didn't even seem like it. It seemed like very...
talking wrestling is fun.
Yeah.
This is Lance Jennings' special show because he brought out the one topic, tag team wrestling. We started talking about tag team wrestling, and where do we end up? Talking for an hour and a half and went everywhere, which is the whole point, right? Just keep talking.
Hey.
So that's the whole nature of the beast. So thank you guys so much. Tell us what's going on with your channel next, Chuck.
Let's see. What am I doing? Well, I'm just waiting for that script from Tommy, so he just has to fax that to me, and so I know my next talking point. No.
Right.
No. No, I'm just. I know. I think hopefully we're going to be seeing some more box art stuff. So yeah, that'll be as soon as I get that in. I'm loving, by the way, that early water. I think we talked about this. The early watercolor. I mean, could that be not more perfect for fans like us, like that just grew up with that? Like
exactly.
I love that. Like I mean, I want posters of that. Just having those, like the little circle because every game you had the little circle with the extra artwork in it on top of the big picture.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what one you have. There's
even backgammon looks fantastic. Their box art.
They're using that style, and I love that flashback to that style.
Yeah, now you got biplanes, Moon Patrol, and the Missile Command that all have that same. I mean, right there you got a triple pack right there to make the shelf look good.
Yep, that's right. And I haven't done a video on it yet. Sort of waiting for it all to wrap out because I don't. Yeah, I think I have. It's about time for me to do a video about it as well. I haven't done an actual Miko video in a couple of months, probably.
I'm trying to work on a Intellavania video. I need to figure out what type of camera setup I can use, and I might see if I can just pull out the old CRT, see if I can get a good view at that, and then just play some Intellavania. But I cannot wait to get into that. That just looks beautiful. That's really all I'm kind of planning.
Plus, you have your show on Monday night, right? You're going to do that every week?
Yes,
so
that's right.
Plug that a little bit. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people here might know, but check out Chuck.
Astro
Jeff
Smash.
and I were both there yesterday.
Yes. Yep. And I hope you guys can make it any time, please, because that I tell you what, the conversations we had were absolutely amazing. And it's funny having Jeff's now getting into it, but like we had him and Nick that are like, we're going, oh, what is your favorite? Oh, wait, we're just getting into it now. But and then have the two people that grew up with it. So it was a really good mix. But yeah, every Monday, 7 p.m. It's called Astro Smashed. It's the All in Television podcast talking about collecting for the Intellivision.
Yep.
Next week, I had my topics are going to be the rare games, the Sears variants, and then I want to do I'm up to 22, I think now. So I got a few more to get. And then I'm also working on for that episode, Is It Worthy Live, which is I do a segment where I just come up with a off the wall game idea that could be put on the new console.
Yeah,
so that'd be kind of fun to come up with what would be a great property. But anyways, that's what I got.
When's Art Bigfall coming back?
And if you guys didn't know, Art Bigfall has his own YouTube channel.
Wow.
And he's got his own videos. And I've actually made an appearance, and he interviewed me, which was really odd. But if anyone wants to check that out, it's Art Big Fall. Or I don't think because it just started that channel, so I don't think there's a. You just have to search Art Big Fall.
Art Big Fall. I'm sure it'll pop right up.
You'll know when his big fat head's pointing at you with his cowboy hat. You'll be able to see.
So big night for you tomorrow night, Jeff.
Yes,
yeah, we're doing our big 1-year anniversary. We've invited lots of people who have been on the show or have helped us out over the past year. So I hope everyone shows up. That'll be a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
For sure.
It's definitely going to be the most people we've ever had on, so I can actually make use of the 10-person thing. So I think we'll have at least.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah. So that'll be great. I can't wait for that. That will be fun. I've been going through some old videos. Already? What's that?
Viking stew is all ready.
Yep. I've been going through old videos. I pulled up the first one we ever did.
That's awesome.
I was like, yeah. The thumbnail has a picture of our first one and a picture of our last show side by side. And it's funny. The first one, everything's blurry. Everything's dark. Everything's so much better now.
Yeah. Wow.
But yeah, that'll be a fun show.
That's great, man.
Right on.
And you guys will both be there.
100%. You know it.
We'll be there for sure.
That'll be great.
Well, guys, thanks a lot for watching. A lot of the regulars in here again tonight. So one of them in there, Mama C, I'll be home soon. Anyway, guys, thanks a lot, Chuck. Thanks a lot, Jeff, once again.
Anytime.
This has been awesome. I love talking wrestling. Next week, when I come back, I'm sitting here thinking I'd love to say that it will be a 125 premiere with a follow-up live podcast.
Ooh.
Live stream afterwards talking about it, but I don't know necessarily that's going to happen yet. If not, it'll happen in 3 weeks. But so a little bit up in the air for next week. In the meantime, I have about 4 or 5 pickup videos to record. Plus, I have a game room tour to do with that I've mentioned before that I have to get put together. So I've got a lot of stuff coming down the pipe with not enough hours to get it all ready. But anyway, that's why doing these are so much fun because we can just sit down and talk and chat and get the input from everybody in the chat. So I really, really love doing it. Anyway, guys, that's it. Time to sign off. Thanks a lot for joining us. Take care.
Take care.
See ya.